to Banana Paradise. How you all doing today? Hi, hi. Hi, Yansa. Hi, Duck. Hi, Mythical. Hi, Deans. Welcome to Banana Paradise. I'm feeling a little lightheaded right now. I think it's because I haven't drank enough water today. So I'm like chugging. I'm like, oh, gotta chug more of that. Yeah, I gotta chug more water. Hi, Nanya. Welcome to Banana Paradise. Go drink water then. I have it right here. My water bottle's right here. I've been drinking it since I got lightheaded, but you know, it doesn't work that quickly. You gotta give it time. Oh my god, thank you, Dane, for hydrate redeem. Thank you, thank you. Yes, I shall hydrate even more. Hi, Decker. Good morning. No, so, guys, I have a question. Have you ever smelled ants? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. It's just something that I just recently discovered, and I'm like, what? No. Okay, okay. My aunt's feet. No, ants. Ants. Yes, weird smell. I eat ants. So, wait, have I mentioned? Did I tell you guys that ants have been invading my desk for a little bit? They're gone now, but a couple days ago, I just saw like a bunch of ants. Not too much though. Like it's not alarming much, but I just see like some of them like on my desk. And then it just struck me because I you know, like ants, they have like a smell. Like it's kind of like it's hard to describe. It's very unique to them, but it's like I would say it's like a sweet, like a little tangy, like acidic sort of smell. And then I realized that not everyone smell ants. How do they taste? I don't eat ants. Although that is a dish in Thailand. It is actually a dish. I've never eaten it though, but there's like, I think that the fire ants, the eggs, the fire ants eggs, they're using omelets, I think. Yeah. They taste acidic too. How many ants have you eaten? Hi, Streets, and welcome to Banana Paradise. She's like, I don't eat ants. Yes. Berry? Go get your throng and tell us. Oh yeah, guys, I'm just gonna on that. You know, with my throngs, they're just gonna pick up the little ants and just, you know. Fire ants taste like cinnamon. It does? Have you guys tried it? Should I be concerned? Ugh, it just makes their skin crawl. Ugh. I last ate one when I was like 5. I mean, it makes sense, you know, when you're a kid, you just everything. I think I learned that people eat fire ants eggs when I was at school, and my school have this big tree, and you know how some ant species, they like making nests on trees with leaves and stuff, right? And there was like ants ants nest ants nest. There's like an ant nest on that tree, and my friend was like, yeah, you can eat the eggs, and I was like, what? Say what now? It's like, I'm not thinking straight. I know, it's so late for you, Barry. You eepy. I saw you guys were in Discord since this morning when I woke up, and I was like, what are y'all doing in there? She leaves the candy out to draw the snacks, ants. You know, I wish it was that easy, you know? If I'm like, what's that thing called? Antler? No, that's not a fucking antler. That creature that eats ants. You know? What do you call them? Yeah, we're a little eepy. Have you not eeped, Nanya? I worked overnight and I might crash. Gosh, guys. You know, I considered streaming a little earlier so you guys don't have to die on my stream. But then I was doing chores around the house, and the next thing I know, it was already like 1. So I was like, oh well, never mind. I took out trash today, so I touched grass for a bit, guys. I walked outside to take my trash out. Clap for Banana! Yeah! Wait, you didn't take me out. You're not trash. Ant eater. It's literally called ant eater. That's fucking crazy. You know, in Thai we call it sunset. I don't know what the name means or anything, but I thought the English name would be more complex because of how the Thai name is. So I guess I overthink it. Quick, Bun, get to the fanfic before anyone taps out. Yeah, about that. You know, there's actually another person that wrote me a fanfic, but I don't think I can read it on stream. I quite literally don't think that I could read it on stream. It's too much for me. I appreciate it though. I read it. Link it. It's just this one is about me in word class. Can't both. Yeah. Yeah, it's about world class and me, and I was like, what the fuck? I quite literally I won't read it on stream. Link. Well, this is already a warning, okay? You cannot complain that I didn't warn you later. Okay? You might literally need to bleach your memory and eyes after. Not to say I really appreciate I appreciate the fanfic. I'm just saying. I'm in the meeting right now. I need context. I'm talking about a fanfic someone wrote for me in Beagle Queen. That's their name on Wattpad. I'm not sure what their YouTube name is, but yeah. You have been warned. I'll put it I'll put it on should I put it on Discord or here? Which one's better? I'm not reading it on stream. I can't stomach this one. It's too much for me. It's not my kink. This one's too much for me. Okay. What's the Discord, by the way? I got you. Let me command Discord. Oh shit. Oh yeah, they're here. Wait, it's worse than 11-inch Voldemort pregnancy? Well, hear me out. It's that. It's like exactly what you said, but it's not Voldemort. It's Malfoy. Malfoy pregnancy plus piss. You did it first, not on my screen. On my screen, I did it first. Yeah. Let's not. Okay. We won't then. Nah, no thanks, be rid of that shit. Yeah, that sounds it's very cooked. Very cooked. Yeah, I am currently watching this in my school hallway. Oh damn, you're cooked. Hi Yinka, welcome to Nana Paradise. Might hard pass. That's why I'm saying that I'm not. I can't read this on stream. I know. Banana X Harry Potter. You know, it's like, yeah, there's like part of Harry Potter because like I made it kind of like a thing where I'm like, okay, if you're gonna write a fanfic about me, write Harry Potter. I need a tier list of Bun chips now. Malfoy, Tom Riddle, Johnny Silverhand, Yancha, and now World Class. I don't even know where like me and World Class thing came to like fruition. Came to be. The art cover is insane. Wait, you seen it? Did you search Bunana on Wattpad? Yes. Yeah. Watching this in Markiplier. Nice, Danes. Hope your day is going well though. But yeah, the cover art just the cover art just says answer itself. If you want to know, just search Bunana on Wattpad. You'll probably get it. Gotta keep chugging that water. I'm feeling better now. Not too much. I still feel a little lightheaded, but it's way better now. Anyways, today, no curse fanfics reading. Aside from mentioning it, I'll be continuing reading my own fanfic that I wrote. Yes, that's right. Did you know that there's 28 chapters already since last time? There's 28 chapters of it now. I think we ended at 9, chapter 9, right? It's been a while. You wrote a fanfic? Yes, I wrote a Harry Potter fanfic. It's because, you know, I was just very into fanfic, and I was like, you know what? It's time to make my mark on Wattpad. It's time for me to make my mark, and a mark I did. Let me share screen. I need to make a game screen overlay, a new one to match with my free talk too. Still using the old one. Yeah, I'm gonna 100% crash before the end of this, but can I get an audiobook version from you? Well, my stream is technically just an audiobook. Because I'm reading it, yeah. Is anyone going to match my free talk? Me. I'll match it. I'm just used to calling it free talk instead of like chatting screen or like Satsu screen, because in when I was streaming like a Thai VTuber, that's what we call Satsus. We call it free talk, and it's just a habit that I can't seem to break. Yeah, but I don't want these losers, not Yancha, to be around while listening to this. What the fuck does that mean? Hi Bachira, welcome to Banana Paradise. You're after the jaw surgery. You're at home right now? Hey, hate it. I can't drink slushy. Why can't you drink slushy? What's wrong with drinking slushy? Why not? No word for Satsu in Thai. Imagine. I mean, there kind of is if you want to translate it literally, but we just call it free talk. So like it's just a big habit. Ow, my head hurts. Oh no, Betsy, I hope to feel better soon. Happy the surgery went well though. I'm trying to see. I don't like the ratio of this because like it's so heavy on the right side. I'm having a problem with this UX, UI, whatever it is. Like, you know, like I just can't be anywhere. Maybe I'll zoom in. There we go. That's a little better, I think. Hi again, welcome to Banana Paradise. I'm on the verge of crashing out too, to be fair, so if I'm silent for longer than 5 minutes, I'm out cold. Fair, very fair. I would rather you guys get enough sleep than just crash out. Stay out the whole thing and sleep deprivation and stuff. Gotta go lunch for Ringson. Okie dokie, bye Dane. Have fun. Thank you for coming by. Is the curse Wattpad in the you'll like? No. I mean, are you talking about the one I was talking about? No. Well, that's a lot coming from you. The person who literally doesn't sleep. Honestly, I've been having such a bad sleep lately. I mean, I woke up really normal people hour because I've been waking at like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., right? But like I wake up just feeling absolutely horrible. It's like I didn't have a I didn't have a good sleep. Period. And I don't know why this never happens to me. I've always been the type of person to just crash out and wake up like, wow, wow, sleep. You need someone to cuddle. I probably do. Accepting applications. Yeah. It seems like you were hiding that. Oh no. I just like putting my wallet on the right side. It feels wrong to put it on the left side. Like, look at this. Like, doesn't it feel like there's something off about it being on the left side? You feel me, chat? You feel me? Like something's so wrong about it. I don't know. It's just something inside me is screaming, ah, no. Yancha, you're up. Yeah, I'll cuddle Yancha. Proud of you, Bun. Thank you. Oh my god, it was so funny because like for like a while when my sleep schedule was like a complete opposite. I was like texting Yancha on Insta, and I'll be like, hi, like blah 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 blah, and then Yancha was like, oh yeah, the last person I talked to before I go to sleep, and I'm like, yeah, this thing is nice, and then she asked me if like I slept yet, and I was like, no. No. And then she's like, oh my god, you have to sleep, and I was like, yeah, I will, and I never did. It do be like that, but go. It's very cute though. It's very cute. Girls get cheek hole because they have built-in pillows. Not fair. What? I swear to God, she's a vampire or something. Oh my god, with my blackout curtain like in every single window of my house now, I feel like yeah, I could pass for a vampire. Like, bro. This woman does not sleep at all cause I do sleep. When it's stream time, yeah. The only time you see me eeping. Quick question, should I start reading fanfics? I mean, if you're into it, yeah. It's fun. I've been actually, you know how like I started out reading all just like Wattpad stuff? I have now moved on to AO3. I've been learning how to use AO3, and it's really nice because like they have like the whole tag system and stuff, and and I just feel like it's just really nice to like search for something that you wanted to read for, like exactly like something like really specific that you wanted to just read for. And it's just there. It's in the tags. AO3 tags is just so specific. I find it kind of funny. Let me make that full screen. There we go. I moved it to my main monitor. This girl really saw vampires and went, yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me right there. Sleeping when it counts the most. Truly. But yeah, hi Spider-Man, welcome to None of Paradise. Alright. You guys probably don't remember what happened in chapter 9 anymore. It's okay. You don't need to know. If you wanna know, just go back for recap. You know what's funny? This is the first fanfic reading stream that I don't have to put mature tag on. Isn't that crazy? Very crazy. Oh yeah, I was meaning to ask too. I've been needing to ask. You know how like I have a new like cafe BGM? It's like more chill, more lo-fi. Do you guys like that or the old one more? Hold up. The old one would be like this one. You know? It's like a little different vibes. Obviously for this stream I'll be using this one because like it's a chill book reading hours. But yeah, I like the lo-fi one more personally. Cafe chill, but it's like 22% louder. What does that mean? You want me to crank it up 20% louder? So down a tad. Okay. Let me crank it down a tad. How's this? Is it good now? Not too loud? But yeah, I also like the lo-fi one. So I've been keeping it on, but I wanted to ask you guys. Alright. Chapter 10. House Cup. The castle was eerily quiet, the usual hum of student chatter replaced by the scratch of quills and the occasional sigh of frustration. Exam season has arrived, and the pressure was palpable. Even the ghosts seemed to glide more solemnly through the corridors, as if unwilling to disturb the tense atmosphere. The sweltering summer heat did nothing to help the nerves. The large classroom where they took their written exams felt like an oven, and the ink on their parchments nearly smudged from the sweat on their hands. Each student had been given a special bewitched quill with an anti-cheating spell. No shortcuts, no last-minute crypt notes, just sheer memory and skill. I like how like the moment I started reading, my voice just started cracking. You can always switch with the stream mood. Not sure Cafe Chill would go with everything. You're right. I feel like it goes with a lot of yappable moments though. The defense against the dark arts exam focused almost entirely on the dark creatures they had studied. Zombies, ghosts, vampires, gnomes. Barely any questions on actual spells, which Daisy found odd. Shouldn't defense include learning how to fight back? She supposed it was the safest route, considering Coral was their professor. Then came the practical exams. Professor Flitwick tested their charms' proficiency, calling them in one by one to make a pineapple tap dance across his desk. Daisy's pineapple did an elegant little waltz before twirling into an energetic jig. Flitwick clapped enthusiastically. Professor McGonagall, as strict as ever, watched them transform mice into snuff boxes. Some students produced perfect, gleaming boxes. Others, unfortunately, ended up with whiskered or twitching results. Daisy was a sleek, black snuff box with silver engravings, earning her a pleased nod from McGonagall. And then there was potions. Snape prowled the classroom, his gaze sharp and unrelenting as they worked on a forgetfulness potion. Daisy's finger trembled slightly as she crushed the valerian root, aware of his presence hovering behind her. She managed to keep her movement steady, but the tension in the air was unbearable. When Snape finally moved away, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The last exam was History of Magic. One grueling hour of scribbling down everything she could remember about ancient wizarding wars, self-stirring cauldrons, and goblin rebellions. The moment Professor Binns had finally called for quills down, the entire class erupted in relieved cheers. Freedom! The moment they were dismissed, students spilled out onto the grounds, desperate for fresh air and sunlight. The black lake shimmered invitingly under the afternoon sun. Daisy joined Pansy, Tracy, and Daphne by the water's edge, stretching her legs out onto the grass as she let the tension melt away. "I can't believe it's over," Tracy said, leaning back on her hands. "I can't believe we did it," Daisy replied, grinning. For a few blissful hours, they forgot about exams and results, laughing and chatting as the sun dipped towards the horizon. The exams were over. They had survived. That night, the castle was quieter than it had been in weeks. No more desperate studying, no more whispered incantations under the covers, just deep, uninterrupted sleep. For most, at least. Daisy woke up suddenly, her body rigid with an inexplicable chill. A creeping sensation crawled up her spine, and she felt a wave of unease settle in her chest. Something was wrong. But what? She clutched her blanket, her breath coming in quick, shallow gaps. Pain shot through her body, sharp and unnatural, like invisible claws raking across her skin. This wasn't like her usual blackouts. There was no loss of control, no disorienting gaps in her memory. She was fully aware, fully present, and yet the pain was unbearable. Her instinct screamed at her to stay quiet. With trembling hands, she cast a silencing charm around her bed, muffling the strangled sobs that forced their way past her lips. She curled in on herself, biting back a scream as the pain reached its peak. Her visions blurred, her body convulsed. By dawn, she passed out, her sheets damp with sweat. As the sun raced above the horizon, the castle has transformed. With classes over, the mood has shifted from tense anxiety to unbridled joy. Students filled the corridors, laughing and playing games, relieved of their academic burdens. Daisy and the other Slytherin girls had taken to lounging in their dormitory, sprawled across the beds, basking in their newfound freedom. Daphne was the only one missing, until she burst into the room, breathless and wild-eyed. "Have you heard? Harry Potter's at it again!" Daisy sat up immediately. "What happened?" Daphne closed the door behind her, as if to make sure no one else could hear. "You remembered the third floor corridor? The one that's off limits unless you want to die a horrible death?" Pansy rolled onto her side. "Yeah, what about it?" Daphne took a dramatic pause. "Potter, Weasley, and Granger were in there last night, and they survived!" The room fell into stunned silence. "They're alive?" Tracy asked, skeptical. "Potter's in the hospital wing," Daphne confirmed. "But yes, they made it through." Daisy's stomach twisted with worry. What were they even doing in there? Daphne's expression turned excited. "You won't believe what I heard. Apparently, there's a giant three-headed dog guarding the trapdoor, and beneath it, a whole series of deadly obstacle. Devil snares, flying keys. You have to catch the right one on the broomstick. And there was a massive wizard chess game. Weasley sacrificed himself of all things. After that, Granger solved one of Snape's logic puzzles, and Potter went into the last room alone." Gasps filled the door. "Our class, welcome to None of Paradise." "What was in the room? What was in the last room?" Daisy demanded. "No one knows," Daphne admitted. "Potter hasn't woken up yet, but some are saying he fought a dragon. Others say..." She hesitated, then whispered, "They say he fought you-know-who." A cold dread filled Daisy's chest. Without another word, she grabbed a box of Honey Duke's chocolate from her nightstand and hurried out of the dormitory. The hospital wing was quiet, save for the soft rustle of Madame Pomfrey's moving between beds. Daisy approached Harry's bedside cautiously. He was still unconscious, bruises and cuts marking his skin. A small pile of gifts and cards sat at the foot of his bed. She placed her own chocolates among them, attaching a simple get-well-soon card. Then she stood there for a long moment, watching him. What had really happened in that last room? Two days later, Daisy was on her way to Hagrid's hut when she saw the half-giant rushing toward her. "Harry's awake!" he bellowed. Together, they hurried to the hospital wing. Boop, time to crash out. Your reading is making me eepy because your beautiful and softly spoken voice. Have a lovely stream, lots of kissing, ma. Okie dokie, Barry. Have a good night. Thank you for coming by. Kissy, kissing, ma. Harry was sitting up in bed, looking pale but alert. Hagrid burst into tears the moment he saw him. "It's all my ruddy fault," Hagrid sobbed. "I told the evil git how to get past Fluffy. I told him." Daisy stood silently, her heart aching for Hagrid. "Hagrid, he would have found out somehow," Harry said gently. "This is Voldemort we're talking about." "You could have died," sobbed Hagrid. "And don't say the name." "Voldemort!" Harry bellowed, shocking Hagrid into silence. "I've met him, and I'm calling him by his name. Please cheer up, Hagrid. We saved the stone. It's gone. He can't use it. Have a chocolate frog. I've got loads." Daisy's eyes widened. "You mean you ran into you-know-who?" Harry nodded, his expression grim. Daisy's mind raced. Was it just a coincidence? The same night she suffered was the same night Harry faced you-know-who. Is she overthinking? Before she spiraled down deeper into her train of thoughts, she was snapped back by Hagrid's voice. "That reminds me." Hagrid wiped his tears and handed Harry a leather-bounded book. "Sent ours to tell all your parents' old school friends asking for photos. Now you didn't have any." Harry opened the book, his eyes filling with tears. Daisy's chest tightened. She knew what it was like to grow up without knowing your parents. "Same here, love your rabbit. Have a good read. Okie dokie, Nanya. Have a good night. Kissy, kissy, mwah. Thank you for coming by." The Great Hall was decked out in Slytherin's green and silver, the serpent banner proudly displayed behind the high table. Daisy couldn't help but feel a swell of pride as she took her seat. But the mood shifted when Dumbledore stood to speak. "Another year gone," he began cheerfully, "and now the House Cup needs awarding. The points stand thus: Slytherin for 472, Ravenclaw 426, Hufflepuff 352, and Gryffindor 312. The Slytherin table erupted in cheers, but Dumbledore raised a hand. "However, recent events must be taken into account." The room fell silent. Dumbledore awarded last-minute points to Ron, Hermione, and Harry, and, to everyone's shock, Neville Longbottom. Which means Dumbledore called over the storm of applause, for even Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff were celebrating the downfall of Slytherin. We need a little change of decoration. He clapped his hands. Daisy watched in stunned horror as the green banners turned scarlet. The Great Hall erupted in cheers, except at the Slytherin table, where silence reigned. Daisy's eyes met Snape's across the hall. Is this even allowed? But there were no answer, just the bitter taste of injustice. She noted the empty chair next to Snape's, the seat which belonged to Quirrell, although she was too busy being upset to care. The feast ended, but the Slytherin table remained shrouded in cold silence. No one spoke, no one ate. They all sat there, still processing what had just happened. Back in the common room, the atmosphere was no different. Stunned, simmering rage lingering in the air like a storm waiting to break. He can't do this! Daisy's voice cut through the silence, sharp with disbelief. She had once thought Dumbledore was wise, kind, and just man, but now he seemed anything but just. The other Slytherins were too shocked to respond. Fine, give them points, but why let us believe we won, only to rip it away at the last second? She demanded, her fists clenching at her sides. Draco scoffed, crossing his arms. I've been saying it from the start. He's a joke. It's like taking candy from a child, Daphne muttered, her voice shaken as she curled her fingers into her robes. Daisy's chest burned with frustration. It wasn't just about losing, it was about how they lost. Dumbledore had let them celebrate, had let them feel victorious, only to snatch it all away in front of the entire school. That night, Slytherin House was left in turmoil, a mess of anger, betrayal, and bitter resentment. Oh, that escalated. Yeah. It sure did. Oh, thank you, Season, for Hydrate Redeem. Ah, there, I chugged more. The next morning, the Great Hall was abuzz with chatter as students received their exam results. Daisy's hands shook as she unrolled her parchment. Astronomy, acceptable. Charms, outstanding. Defense against the dark arts, acceptable. Herbology, outstanding. History of magic, acceptable. Potions, outstanding. Transfiguration, exceeds expectations. Yes! She shouted, her relief echoing through the hall. I didn't fail any! Her friends celebrated their own successes, the joy of their achievements helping to ease the sting of the previous night. And just like that, the school year had come to an end. Wardrobes stood empty, trunks neatly packed, and final notices were handed out, reminding students not to use magic over the holidays. The castle, once brimming with life, now echoed with the sounds of hurried footsteps and excited chatter. Yep, not failing any. Hagrid stood by the doors, ushering them down towards the waiting boats that bobbed gently on the black lake. As they sailed across the water, Hogwarts loomed behind them, its towering spires fading into the misty morning air. Then came the Hogwarts Express, gleaming red on the platform, steam billowing into the sky. Laughter filled the carriage, the carriages as the students settled in, swapping chocolate frog cards and daring each other to try Bertie Bot's every flavor beans. Outside the window, the countryside blurred past, shifting from wild moors to neat fields and quaint Mughal villages. One by one, they shed their wizarding robes, trading them for coats and jackets as the train neared London. And then, at last, with a final lurch, the Hogwarts Express pulled into King's Cross Station. Hi Clownful, welcome to Banana Paradise. Is Wattpad a place to go for all female teenagers? What do you mean? I mean, it's fanfic, so I guess so. The platform was a flurry of movement as students poured out of the train. Near the barrier, an old station guard managed to flow off traffic, letting them pass in small groups so they wouldn't startle the Muggles by suddenly appearing from solid brick. Daisy felt the pull of home as she stepped forward, but before she could leave, she turned to her friends. Pansy and Tracer were the first to go, their parents ushering them away in a hurry. "See you next year," Pansy called over her shoulder before disappearing into the crowd. Daisy continued walking with Daphne, their footsteps falling in sync as they passed through the barrier together. "Mom, Dad!" Daphne called out, her voice bright with excitement. Daisy followed her gaze and spotted the Greengrass family waiting nearby. Mr. and Mrs. Greengrass stood tall and poised, but Daisy's attention landed on the small girl beside them, Daphne's little sister. What was her name again? Daisy frowned in thought before the answer clicked into place. Astoria Greengrass. She offered a polite greeting to the family before stepping back, ready to leave. "Daisy, dear!" The familiar warmth of Molly Weasley's voice cut through the station's noise. Daisy turned, breaking into a wild smile as she spotted her. "Molly!" Without hesitation, she rushed over, wrapping her in a tight hug. Molly returned the embrace with a motherly squeeze, her presence radiating comfort. Daisy's eyes met Ron's and he gave her a curt nod. Daisy is quite relieved. It seemed he, at least, tolerates her presence again. She wasn't sure how he was going to react while being with her without Harry and Hermione. This was it, the end of her first year at Hogwarts. Soon, she'll be on her way back to her little cottage, far from the castle's stone halls and flickering torches. But for now, she was simply homebound. The summer sun warmed Daisy's face as she and Molly prepared to apparate back to the cottage. The year had been filled with challenges, blackouts, trolls, dragons, and the ever-looming shadow of you-know-who. But it had also brought friendship, discovery, and a sense of belonging she'd never known. As the world twisted and squeezed around her, Daisy closed her eyes and a small smile playing on her lips. This is just the beginning. End of book 1. Yay! Thank you, K-Wop, by the way. Good book, good read again. Next chapter, Chapter 11, Moony. Daisy spent her summer. Oh, thank you, Stretch Redeem Streeton. Daisy spent her summer back at her cottage, nestled in the quiet solitude of the forest. The days were long and lazy, filled with the hum of cicadas. The nights filled with occasional hoots from the owls and the rustle of leaves. She spent most of her time studying, determined to improve her grades for her second year at Hogwarts. Last year hadn't gone as well as she'd hoped, particularly in defense against the dark arts, and she was eager to prove herself. The cottage, though small and isolated, felt like a sanctuary. She didn't mind the quiet life. It gave her time to reflect and prepare, but she missed Hogwarts. She missed the bustling corridors, the hum of magic in the air, and, most of all, her friends. Her blackouts, which had plagued her throughout the school year, seemed to have vanished after the excruciating pain she'd experienced on the night Harry faced you-know-who. She wasn't sure what had changed, but she was grateful for the peace. One sunny afternoon, as she sat by the window, head buried into her books, an owl tapped on the glass. Daisy's heart leapt as she recognized the familiar jagged handwriting on the letter. "Moony!" she exclaimed, tearing open the envelope. "Dear my favorite day, how have you been? I heard you were accepted to Hogwarts. For that, I owe you a congratulations. I wish I could have been there to see you open that letter myself. You must have grown so much since the last time I saw you. So I bought this dress. I'm not sure if it will fit you or not, so I aim for it to be bigger. You can always get it tailored smaller. I remembered my days back in Hogwarts. They were the best memory of my life, and I hope you cherish every minute there too. Anyways, I'm going to be visiting you soon. I can stay for a couple days this time. I've been getting more stable lately, and it's about time I stopped traveling so much. It's getting tiring at this age to have odd jobs all the time. Is there anywhere particular you'd like to visit? I can accompany you there. Oh, and I hope nighttime's darkness doesn't scare you as much anymore. But just in case, I'll remind you that I'll always be your moon in the night, my little day. Missing you, yours, Moony. P.S. Heard you're sorted into Slytherin, so I picked you a green dress." Daisy's eyes brimmed with tears as she finished reading. In her life, there were 3 people who had helped raise her: Hagrid, Molly, and Remus. Hagrid was her primary caretaker, but he was more like a fun uncle than a parent. Molly was the closest thing to a mother figure, but with 7 children of her own, her attention was always stretched thin. Remus, though his visits were infrequent, was the one she felt closest to. He was her father figure, the one who had helped her through her fear of the dark. She remembered how he'd told her his nickname among his friends was Moony, and how he'd promised to always be her moon in the night, watching over her. Her heart raced with excitement. Where should they go? Diagon Alley, of course. She hadn't had the chance to explore it properly with Hagrid last time, and the idea of staying at the Leaky Cauldron thrilled her. Hi Matthias, welcome to Banana Paradise. She tore open the package, her breath catching as she pulled out the dress. It was a stunning emerald green, sleeveless with a puffy skirt. She held it up to herself, spinning in front of a mirror. "It's perfect," she whispered. Daisy quickly penned a reply. "Dear Moony, I'm doing great. I've missed you so much. The dress is gorgeous. I love it. I'm thinking we can go to Diagon Alley together. Maybe even stay a night at the Leaky Cauldron. Anyways, please come soon. I'll tell you all about school. Yours, Day." After giving the owl some treats and handing it her reply, Daisy ran outside, her leather clutch in her hands. Hagrid was tilling the small crop field behind the cottage, his massive frame bent over the soil. "Hagrid!" she shouted, waving the letter. "What is it, Daisy?" he asked, wiping sweat from his brow. "Moony's coming to visit soon," she said, bouncing on her toes. Hagrid chuckled. "Ah, yes, I've heard. Haven't seen him in a while, have ya?" Daisy grinned, offering to help with the crops. They worked together until sunset, the rhythmic motion of tilling the soil soothing her restless energy. She was glad her relationship with Hagrid was back to normal after the misunderstandings of the school year. She was afraid he had grown distant. She shook her head at the thought. A few days later, a knock on the door sent Daisy racing to answer it. "Moony!" she cried, throwing her arms around him. "Little Day!" Remus laughed, hugging her tightly. "Oh, I've missed you." "I miss you too," Daisy said, her voice muffled against his coat. Remus pulled back, his hands on her shoulders. "I've come with good news." "What is it?" "I'll be able to visit more often now. I mentioned it in the letter. I'm trying to settle down somewhere." "Really?" Daisy squealed, squeezing him again. "Really?" he said, smiling. Daisy dragged Remus to the couch, eager to share everything about her first year at Hogwarts. She told him about her sorting, her friends, Pansy, Daphne, and Tracy, and her bickering with Draco. She recounted the troll incident, Professor Snape's Christmas gift, and seeing her parents in the mirror of Erised with Harry. She left out the blackouts, not wanting to worry him. "My first year wasn't too hard," she said, pulling out a parchment of her exam grades. "I didn't fail any classes, but I want to do better this year." Remus scanned the parchment, his eyes landing on her acceptable grade in defense against the dark arts. "I can help with that. I'm pretty good at it if I say so myself." "Really?" Daisy's eyes lit up, her ambitions skyrocketed. "No time to waste," Remus said, standing. "Let's start with Expelliarmus." The rest of the day was spent practicing spells. Remus was a patient teacher, guiding her through the wand movements and incantations. By sunset, Daisy had a basic grasp of Expelliarmus, Petrificus Totalis, Rectum Sempra, Fulmus Duo, and Spongify. With this knowledge, she can practice and try to master them on her own. "You're a natural," Remus said, ruffling her hair. Daisy beamed, her cheeks flushed with pride. That evening, they ate dinner together, the table laden with vegetables from the garden and meat Hagrid had hunted the day before. "You should be a teacher, Moony," Daisy said between bites. "You're a really good teacher, better than Professor Quirrell was all year." Remus chuckled, though his eyes clouded with something Daisy couldn't quite place. "I don't think they'd want me teaching." He glanced out the window, looking at the night sky. "Why not? They'd be missing out on the most wonderful wizard ever." Remus smiled, patting her head. "You're kind, Daisy, just like your mother." "Hi, Vading, welcome to Banana Paradise. Good afternoon." Daisy's breath caught. What was she like? Remus' eyes softened. She was exceptionally kind, the rare kind of kindness that sees the good in everyone. Daisy felt a warmth spread through her chest. She didn't know what to say, but she was happy. Happier than she'd been in a long time. The next morning, Daisy woke early, her excitement bubbling over. Remus was taking her to Diagon Alley, and she couldn't wait. He decided to take her by Fleur rather than apparition, considering Daisy's preference. Ready? Remus asked, holding a handful of Fleur powder. Daisy nodded, clutching her own handful, her hands trembling, feeling nervous, for it was her first time using the Fleur powder. Remember, Remus said, pronunciation is key. Keep your eyes shut and your arms tight to your body. Daisy threw the powder. Emerald flames blazed taller than her height. Daisy took a deep breath. She stepped in and shouted, Diagon Alley! The words spun around her, and she emerged in the leaky cauldron, coughing slightly. Remus followed moments later. After Remus checked in with the inn's receptionist, they spent the day wandering the bustling streets, window shopping and chatting. Daisy's eye lit up at every store, from Ilove's... How do I pronounce this word? Elove's Al's Emporium to quality Quidditch supplies. She caught sight of a gleaming sign in the window of Flourish and Blots, the golden lettering practically shimmering in the afternoon light. Imagine a speech impediment. You could wind up anywhere. That's what Harry did in the movie. He said diagonally. And then he ended up at Nocturne Alley for some reason. I have no clue how that happened. Although, going off on a tangent right here. Actually, in the books, Harry didn't mispronounce it. He was coughing because of the flames. He coughed while saying Diagon Alley, and then he ended up at Nocturne Alley. Yeah, difference between books and movies. Alright, I stop. Gilderoy Lockhart, Magical Me, the best autobiography of our time, now in stores. Beneath the sign, a large moving photograph of a wizard with wavy blonde hair, twinkling blue eyes, and a dazzling smile beamed at passerbys, winking and striking a pose as if expecting an applause. Daisy let out a quiet scoff, shaking her head at the sheer gaudiness of it. Every inch of the display screamed self-importance. A flicker of pity crossed Daisy's face. For someone to need this much attention, he must be miserable underneath it all. As they kept walking, they passed Nocturne Alley. Daisy stiffened, memories of the cold serpentine voice flooding back. "Are you all right?" Remus asked, noticing her unease. "Yeah," Daisy said, forcing a smile. "Last time I was here, I saw something weird down there." Remus's expression darkened. "That's Nocturne Alley for you. It's dangerous. Never go down there alone, Day." Daisy nodded, her grip tightening on Remus's arm. They ended the day at Florin Fortescue Ice Cream Parlor, where Daisy indulged in a large chocolate sundae, sitting under the bright sunlight with Remus. She felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in months. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Daisy leaned back in her chair, savoring the last bite of her sundae. "This was the best day," she said, smiling to Remus. He looked back at her, his eyes twinkling. As they walked back to the leaky cauldron, the streets of Diagonale glowing with enchanted lanterns, Daisy knew one thing for certain. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she wouldn't face them alone. Chapter 12. Weasley. July 28th. Life at the cottage had settled back into its quiet rhythm after Remus's visit. Daisy spent her days practicing the spells he taught her and poring over her textbooks, determined to start her second year at Hogwarts stronger than ever. Her grades last year had been decent, but decent wasn't good enough for her. She wanted to excel. The knock on the door came just as she was finished a particularly tricky chapter on advanced potion making. "Molly! Ginny!" Daisy exclaimed, throwing the door open and pulling them into a hug. She had been expecting them. Molly wrote to her a couple days ago, mentioning that she had to be somewhere and didn't want to leave Ginny on her own. "I have to go now, dear," Molly said, her voice warm but hurried. "Fred and George have been keeping my hands full, but you two have a great time." She kissed Daisy's forehead, then Ginny's, before disapparating with a soft whoosh. A moment of silence followed. Daisy had never had a friend her age over before. She's also not very close to Ginny. Daisy wasn't sure how to fill the awkward gap. Thank you, Nana, for Hydrate Redeem. Welcome to Banana Paradise. So, Ginny, she began, fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve. "Would you like anything to drink? Water? Tea?" "Water would be great." My tongue got tied up. "Water would be great," Ginny said, her voice shy but friendly. Daisy pulled out her wand and grabbed an empty mug. She filled it with water, then guided Ginny to the couch. "So," Daisy said, trying to sound casual, "I heard you'll be going to Hogwarts this year too." "Oh yes," Ginny's face lit up. "I'm so excited. After Ron left, the house was peaceful, but not in a good way." She chuckled. "Being alone with Mom and Dad was kind of weird, honestly." Daisy laughed. "I can't imagine the burrow being peaceful at all." "Right?" Ginny grinned. "Although I could live without my brother's mockery," she sighed, her cheeks flushing slightly. Daisy raised an eyebrow. "What did they mock you about?" "Oh, well," Ginny's face turned crimson. "It's nothing." Daisy smiled, letting the topic drop. "What house do you think you'll be in?" "Gryffindor, of course," Ginny said, without hesitation. "All of my family is in Gryffindor. I can't imagine being anywhere else." "Yeah, that makes sense," Daisy said, though a small part of her wondered what it would be like to have her in Slytherin. "I heard from Ron that you're in Slytherin," Ginny said, her tone cautious. Daisy nodded. "Yes." "He wasn't very happy about it at first," Ginny admitted. "He said all Slytherins are evil, but he's starting to come around now." Daisy chuckled. "You should have seen his face when I got sorted." "I can only imagine," Ginny said, laughing. There was a pause, then Ginny added, You know, I had been thinking. She eyed Daisy cautiously, as if she wasn't sure if should continue talking or not. Daisy seems say so, but she's not. What you mean? She is say so. She eyed Daisy cautiously, as if she wasn't sure if she should continue talking or not. Then she uttered, "In a way, it makes sense to think of you as our sister. Technically, Mom raised you too." Daisy listened, and she had never really thought about it before, but she supposed Ginny had a point. "And I've always wanted a sister." Ginny smiled shyly, extending her hand. "Sisters?" Daisy heart warmed. She took Ginny's hand, grinning. "Sisters." The two girls spent the day bonding, Daisy sharing stories about Hogwarts and Ginny soaking up every detail. She'd heard plenty from her brothers, but Daisy's perspective as a Slytherin was entirely new. When Molly returned to pick up Ginny, the younger girl asked if Daisy could come to the burrow. Molly agreed enthusiastically, even offering to let Daisy stay until the start of the school year. "You're always welcome, dear," Molly said, her eyes kind. Daisy hesitated. She didn't want to be a burden, but the thought of spending more time with the Weasleys, of being part of their lively, chaotic family, was too tempting to resist. Cute Bunny on the outside, dirty Slytherin on the inside. Or, I mean, cute Daisy. What? It's all blasphemy. July 31st. Life at the Burrow was a whirlwind of noise and activity. The ghoul in the attic howled and banged pipes whenever things got too quiet. And the occasional explosion from Fred and George's room was considered perfectly normal. Daisy shared Ginny's room, sleeping on an extra cushion Molly had provided. Her interactions with Ron were friendly, though she could tell he was still wary of her. However, he didn't show any outright animosity, which was progress. Ginny, on the other hand, was an open book. She talked endlessly about her excitement for her upcoming year, her brothers, and, most of all, Harry Potter. "He's so brave," Ginny sighed, lying on her bed. "And kind. Did you know he saved the Philosopher's Stone?" Daisy chuckled. "I've heard something about a stone before. Didn't know it was the Philosopher's Stone." She pieced it together in her head. Their conversation was interrupted by a loud BAM! As Fred and George burst into the room, setting off a confetti bomb. "Happy birthday, Daisy!" they shouted, followed by Percy, Molly, and Ginny. Ron's greeting was less enthusiastic, but still genuine. Daisy stood frozen, her mind blank. She'd forgotten her own birthday. Again. Oh my god, wait, at the confetti bomb I could have. Yay! Molly led her to a pile of gifts, most handmade or secondhand, but no less thoughtful. There was a knitted scarf and a set of homemade fudge for Molly, and a secondhand book on advanced charms for Percy. Fred and George had gifted her a box of their latest prank products, while Ginny gave her a handmade bracelet. "This is awesome. Thank you, everyone," Daisy said, her voice thick with emotion. August 1st. The next morning, Daisy and Ginny were woken by the commotion downstairs. They hurried downstairs. You know what? I should have changed that word to something else. They hurried down. Let's just say I typed down. They hurried down. Daisy was able to understand some of the conversation now that she's near the kitchen. And we're starving him, Mom, George was saying. And you, Molly scolded. As soon as Ginny peeked into the kitchen, she let out a small squeal and bolted back upstairs. Ginny, Daisy called, confused. She peeked into the kitchen. Oh, hi, Harry, she said, noticing him at the table. Molly shooed the boys outside to denome the garden, Harry joining them, leaving Daisy at the table, eating breakfast. A week later, some Hogwarts letters arrived. Daisy, Ginny, Harry, and the Weasley boys A week later, some Hogwarts letters arrived. Daisy, Ginny, Harry, and the Weasley boys gathered around the kitchen table as Molly handed out the yellowish envelopes. Second-year students will require The Standard Books of Spells, Grade 2 by Miranda Goshawk, Break with the Banshee by Gilderoy Lockhart, Gadding with Goals by Gilderoy Lockhart, Holidays with Hags by Gilderoy Lockhart, Travel with Trolls by Gilderoy Lockhart, Voyages with Vampires by Gilderoy Lockhart, Wanderings with Werewolves by Gilderoy Lockhart, Year with the Yeti by Gilderoy Lockhart. Daisy frowned at the list. What happened to Professor Quirrell? She is more or less questioning his sanity for ordering this many new books. He died, Harry said quietly. Daisy's eyes widened. What? I met him that night in the third corridor. He was in the last room. Daisy nodded and didn't push further, piecing together the implications herself. She looked back at her list. Gilderoy Lockhart? She said, thinking about the name. You've been told to get all Lockhart's books too? Fred said, finishing his own list. The new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher must be a fan, but is a witch. That lot won't come cheap, said George, with a quick look at his parents. Lockhart's books are really expensive. Well, we'll manage, said Mrs. Weasley, but she looked worried. Daisy's heart sank for Molly. Her memory jogged up. She remembered now the gaudy sign at Flourish and Blood's. She really hoped the new professor's just his fan. Please don't let it be him, she thought. Then Percy walked into the kitchen. Ron took the limp arrow from Percy, muttering about the owl's uselessness, and pulled out Hermione's letter, reading it aloud. He scoffed at her mention of schoolwork during the holidays, but perked up at the end. She'd be in Diagon Alley next Wednesday. Well, that works out, Molly said, clearing the table. We can all get your things then, too. Later that day, the group headed to the paddock for Quidditch practice. Daisy and Ginny sat on the sidelines, chatting and watching the boys toss apples instead of waffles. Don't know how Mom and Dad are going to afford all our school stuff this year, George said after a while. 5 sets of Lockhart books, and Ginny needs ropes and a wand and everything. Daisy frowned. There was silence after George's words. Everyone's face darkened. Daisy pulled out her pouch of coins. She took out 46 galleons from the pouch and into her own pocket. 35 galleons for 7 of Lockhart's books. 1 galleon for the grade 2 standard book of spells, and 10 extra just in case. She recounted to be sure before she said, "You can have the rest of this. There should be around 50 galleons left. I know it's not much, but I wanted to help, and it's not mine anyway. It was gifted to me for school supplies. I'm sure whoever gave it to me would want you to use it too." The boys stared at her, surprised. "We can't accept that," George said hesitantly. He seemed conflicted. But Daisy insisted. "I want to help Molly out. I owe her for a lot of things." The boys stared at her. "And you guys are technically, by extension, my family." She looked over to Ginny. "Right?" Ginny beamed. The boys nodded. "But," said Ron, "Mom would never accept it. She'll try to return it for sure." Daisy thought for a moment, then said, "Simple enough. Don't tell her then. Just use these to buy stuff without her knowing. And if she ever asked, we can just make up a cheaper price." Fred grinned. "Exactly," Daisy replied. "It will help ease her burden at least a little." They couldn't refute her reasonings and accepted her pouch. "Thank you, Daisy," George said, looking at her warmly. Daisy smiled back. As the sun set over the paddock, Daisy couldn't help but be reminded of the mystery patron who gave her the money and the many other mysteries surrounding her. For now, though, she was content to bask in the warmth of the barrow and the company of her new family. Whee! Chapter 13: Flourish and Blots. August 19. Daisy was jolted awake early on Wednesday morning by the sound of Molly bustling about the barrow. The aroma of sizzling bacon wafted upstairs, pulling her from the remnants of a restless sleep. She dressed quickly and joined the others in the kitchen, where a hurried breakfast of bacon sandwiches was being devoured. The excitement of the day ahead was palpable, though Daisy couldn't shake the lingering unease that had settled in her chest. Molly pulled out a dwindling supply of flue powder from a flower pot on the mantelpiece. "Guess first. Go on, Harry dear," she said, offering him the pot with a warm smile. Harry hesitated, his green eyes flickering with uncertainty. Ron suddenly remembered. Harry had never traveled by flue powder before, so Fred, ever the showman, stepped up to demonstrate. With a dramatic flourish, he tossed a pinch of the glittering powder into the fireplace, shouted, "Diagonally!" and vanished into the emerald flames. Wait, diagonally. Diagon alley. Diagon alley? Diagon alley. Molly fussed over Harry, giving him rapid-fire instructions, but Daisy could see he was overwhelmed. Before he could fully process her words, he stepped into the fire, coughing out his destination mid-sentence. Diagonally. The green flame swallowed him whole, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air. So wait, when did Harry mispronounce diagonally? Before this or after this? This, actually. It wasn't the movie changed it. He only coughed it out in the movies, but in the movie he mispronounced it. Wait, I mean in the books. In the books he coughed it. So this is the situation. Right here. Hi Puck Puck, welcome to another paradise. You know, I try to keep my fanfic like lore accurate to the book as much as possible. So like even if you don't know anything about Harry Potter, you'll know things. You'll know things from here. You don't need to go read the books. It's like everything happens almost canonically, but like from like Daisy's perspective and with the added, extra of her character being in there. Is this yours? Yes, this is my fanfic. Everyone glanced at each other, processing what Harry had just said. "Oh dear," Molly exclaimed frantically, her hands flying to her face. "We need to hurry and find him." She handed Daisy the flower pot, and Daisy took a steadying breath before scooping up a pinch of blue powder. "Diagonally," she said confidently, stepping into the flames. The world spun around her, and moments later, she stumbled out into the leaky cauldron where Fred was waiting. "Have you seen Harry?" Daisy asked for confirmation, brushing soot from her robes. "No," Fred replied, his usual grin replaced by a look of concern. One by one, the rest of the Weasleys arrived. George, Ron, Ginny, Percy, Molly, and Arthur. Molly immediately began directing everyone to search for Harry. Daisy's heart pounded as they fanned out through the bustling streets of Diagon Alley, the air thick with the scent of roasted nuts and the chatter of witches and wizards. After what felt like an eternity, Daisy heard a familiar voice calling out near Gringotts. "Harry! Harry, over here!" It was Hermione, rushing down the marble steps. "There's Harry," Ron pointed, relief flooding his voice. Daisy's eyes scanned the crowd, landing on Harry, who looked slightly disheveled but unharmed. Hagrid's massive frame loomed protectively over him. She hurried over, weaving through the crowd of shoppers. Harry explained that he had landed in Nocturne Alley, much to the twins' envy. Molly, however, was beside herself with worry. "Oh, Harry! Oh, my dear, you could have been anywhere!" she gasped, pulling a large clothes brush from her bag and sweeping off the soot Hagrid hadn't managed to beat away. Arthur took Harry's glasses, gave them a tap of his wand, and returned them good as new. "Hagrid!" Daisy greeted the half-giant with a hug. "What are you doing here?" "I was looking for a flesh-eating slug repellent," Hagrid grumbled. "Ruining school cabbages." "They are." He paused, then he handed Daisy a small pouch of gold. "Oh, here's some more. He said you were running low." I'm struggling to read really bad. "Oh, here's some more. He said you were running low." "Oh, thank you." Daisy accepted the pouch with a grateful smile, though her mind raced with questions. Who had given Hagrid the money to pass on to her? How did he know she gave the rest of her first pouch to the Weasleys? She took 46 galleons she had from her pocket and put it into the pouch before tucking it into her pocket, resolving to ponder it later. As Hagrid departed, Harry mentioned seeing Draco Malfoy and his father in Borgin and Burke's. Lucius Malfoy had been selling items which Arthur found suspicious. "He's worried about something," Arthur muttered, though Molly quickly warned him not to pick a fight with the Malfoys. Daisy stood awkwardly with Hermione and her parents, trying to make small talk while they wait for the rest to get gold out of their vaults. "So how's your summer been?" Daisy asked, hoping to break the silence. "It's been nice," Hermione replied. I've mostly been doing schoolwork." "Schoolwork? What work?" Daisy raised her eyebrows, intrigued. After collecting their gold, the group split up. Harry, Ron, and Hermione wandered off together, while Percy muttered about needing a new quill. Fred and George spotted their friend Lee Jordan, and Molly and Ginny headed to a second-hand robe shop. Arthur insisted on taking the Grangers to the Leaky Cauldron for a drink, leaving Daisy to her own devices. She wandered through Diagon Alley, taking in the sights and sounds. The place felt familiar now, after her previous visits with Remus. She found herself reminiscing about their time together, a bittersweet ache settling in her chest. Eventually, Daisy made her way to Flourish and Blots, where a large crowd had gathered. The reason for this was proclaimed by a large banner stretched across the upper windows. Gilderoy Lockhart will be signing copies of his autobiography, Magical Me, today, 12:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Daisy scoffed, laced with pity at the spectacle, only to be startled by the voice behind her. "He's a joke," Draco Malfoy sneered. Daisy turned, her heart skipping a beat. "Malfoy," she said, trying to mask her surprise. "Evans," he replied, his tone as unpleasant as ever. They exchanged a few curt words about Lockhart before parting ways, their mutual disdain for the man providing a rare moment of agreement. On the second floor, Daisy watched chaos rain down below. The crowd was mostly made up of witches around Molly's age, all vying for a glimpse of Lockhart. Daisy watched as Harry, Ron, and Hermione were swept into the fray, Lockhart seizing the opportunity to pull Harry in and make a grand announcement about his new position as Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher at Hogwarts. Her worst nightmare. She felt a presence joining her watch midway. With just the corner of her eye, she could tell it was Draco, though he quickly stormed off as soon as Lockhart let Harry out of his grip. She saw Draco approaching Harry. The scene quickly devolved into a face-off between Draco and Harry, Ginny, and Ron. Each word they uttered was like adding fuel to the fire. "Oh, all of you, stop it!" Daisy walked in between them and Draco. Then suddenly, Arthur showed up. He tried to get them to leave, but was stopped. Well. Arthur Weasley. It was Lucius. He stood with his hand on Draco's shoulder, sneering in just the same way. As Lucius moved closer, Daisy stepped away from Draco, but she felt really dizzy. Her head throbbed, and her ears began ringing with whispery voices. Her face paled, and she stumbled to keep straight. Amongst the chaos, the only person who noticed was Ginny, who came to her side and supported her. "Are you all right?" Ginny asked, while Arthur and Lucius nearly coming to blows. Daisy forced a nod in response. Molly did her best to defuse the situation, but it was Hagrid who ultimately broke up the fight, his towering presence enough to quell the tension. "Here, girl, take your book. It's the best your father can give you." Lucius sneered at Ginny, pulling himself out of Hagrid's grip as he beckoned to Draco and swept from the shop. As the crowd dispersed, everyone's attention turned to Daisy, who barely had any strength left. Her vision blurred. The sound of the crowd were now completely replaced with the voices ringing in her ears. "Oh dear, what's wrong?" Molly rushed over. Daisy! Daisy couldn't tell what Molly was saying, only that her mouth moved. Then, the world went black. Chapter 14, Dumbledore. August 22nd. Daisy opened her eyes. The room was shrouded in darkness, and for a moment, she couldn't make out where she was. She blinked several times, her visions slowly adjusting to the faint moonlight filtering through the curtains. The familiar shapes of her bedroom came into focus. The worn wooden dresser, a stack of books on her nightstand, and the faint outline of her Hogwarts trunk in the corner. What happened? She thought, her mind foggy. The last thing she remembered was the chaos at Flourish and Plots, the fight between the Malfoys and the Weasleys. She must have blacked out, and Molly must have brought her back to the cottage. She glanced at her calendar on the wall, the current date glowing in blue. August 22nd? She's been out for 4 days. Daisy tried to shift herself upright, but her body protested with a dull ache. Dull ache. Her throat was parched, her mouth dry as parchment. She reached for her wand on a nightstand, her hand trembling slightly, and tapped an empty mug beside it. The cup filled with cool, clear water, and she gulped it down in one go, the liquid soothing her raw throat. She's never been more glad to learn how to do the spell non-verbally. She sighed, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. The water had never tasted so good. She stretched her arms, trying to shake off the lingering fatigue, and carefully swung her legs over the side of the bed. I need that spell and want to remove pee. No, actually, oh my god, I'm going on a tangent again. Actually, hold up, I forgot what year, but apparently Hogwarts didn't have a sewer system before this certain year. So like before they had built the sewer system, the witches and the wizard would just releases whatever they wanted right there and just vanish it. It vanishes it away. And this is canon because it came from the official Harry Potter Twitter. It's so crazy to me that this is actually canon lore. Clean as pee bottleless. Clean as pee bottleless. No sewer system? That feels like such a massive oversight. Yeah, apparently they got the sewer system and toilets and stuff from the Muggles. So, vanish the poopers. Poopses? Wow, Junk, you're such a good wizard. It's kind of funny, yeah. Her feet touched the cold wooden floor, and she took a moment to steady herself before standing. She shuffled out of her room, each step deliberate and cautious. The cottage was quiet, save for the soft creak of the floorboards beneath her feet. As she neared the kitchen, she noticed a faint golden glow spilling into the hallway. Peering around the corner, she saw a familiar figure sitting at the worn wooden table by the window, his half-moon glasses glinting in the candlelight. "Ah, I see that you're up," said Albus Dumbledore, his voice warm and calm. Professor Dumbledore, said Daisy, startled. She hadn't expected to find the headmaster of Hogwarts in her kitchen. What brings you here, sir? Dumbledore smiled gently, his blue eyes twinkling. Well, Molly and Hagrid notified me of your condition. I thought it best to check on you myself. I see, Daisy replied, still trying to process his presence. She had never spoken to Dumbledore one-on-one before, and the sight of him in her humble cottage felt almost surreal. Come, child, sit, Dumbledore said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Your body hasn't fully recovered yet. Daisy obeyed, settling into the chair and folding her hands in her lap. She waited silently, unsure of what to say or ask. The air felt heavy with unspoken questions, and Dumbledore seemed to sense her unease. I'm sure you have many questions, Daisy, he said, his tone encouraging. Yes, sir, she replied, relieved that he had given her permission to speak. What happened to me? Dumbledore leaned back in his chair, stapling his fingers. Well, Daisy, I'm sure you've heard about dark magic before, yes? Daisy nodded. She had read about it in books and heard whispers of it in the halls of Hogwarts, but it had always felt distant, something that happened to other people. You, Daisy, have a strong affinity for dark magic, Dumbledore continued, his expression serious, but not unkind. Exposure to it can cause you distress. Daisy frowned, trying to make sense of his words. What does that mean, sir? Dumbledore's eyes softened. Think of it this way. Imagine stepping out into a cold winter's day. At first, the chill bites at your skin, and it's deeply unpleasant. But the longer you stay in the cold, the more your body adjusts. You might even become numb to it. That's what it's like for you with dark magic, Daisy. You feel it more acutely than most. But over time, your body will learn to adapt. Daisy nodded slowly, the analogy helping her understand. So, the blackouts? Ah, yes, Dumbledore said, stroking his beard thoughtfully. How have they been lately? Daisy hesitated, surprised by the question. Hagrid and Molly must have mentioned her blackouts to him. They haven't happened since the exam night, sir. How curious, Dumbledore murmured. And before that? Occasionally, sir, Daisy admitted. Dumbledore stared, waiting to hear more. Any significant instances? She paused and replied, The first Quidditch match of the season, sir. Dumbledore's eyes sparkled with interest. I see. Hi Josh, welcome to Banana Paradise. We're reading fanfic today. Would you happen to know anything about that, sir? Daisy asked, her curiosity piqued. I suspected that a very dark magic was used that day, Dumbledore said. I'm sure you recall the incident with Mr. Potter's broom? Daisy's eyes widened. Yes, sir. Was someone hexing it? Precisely, Dumbledore said. I believe your sensitivity to dark magic caused you to react strongly to the spell. However, I suspect you'll experience fewer blackouts as you grow more accustomed to such influences. Minor dark magic shouldn't cause you much distress anymore, though you'll still be able to sense it. Daisy felt a small wave of relief. At least she wouldn't have to worry about collapsing at random moments all the time. "Thank you, sir," she said quietly. Dumbledore smiled and rose from his chair, his robes shimmering in the candlelight. "Now that you're feeling better, I should take my leave. I wouldn't want to disturb your recovery too much. Hagrid will be back later tonight, so you needn't worry." "Thank you, sir," Daisy said again, standing as well. With a nod and a faint whoosh, Dumbledore disapparated, leaving Daisy alone in the quiet cottage. She stood there for a moment, staring at the empty space where he had been, her mind racing. An affinity for dark magic, she thought, sinking back into her chair. The idea was both unsettling and intriguing. What did it mean for her? Was it a curse or a gift? And why had Dumbledore taken such a personal interest in her? The question swirled in her mind as she gazed out the window at the moonlit garden. Yay! I need to pee. That's okay, I can hold it. Chapter 15, Flying Car. August 30th. Do you call it 30th? 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 And anyway, 30th. Summer had flown by in a blur. After her incident at Flourish and Blots, Daisy had decided to spend the remaining days at her cottage, focusing on her studies for the upcoming school year. Molly and Ginny had visited the day after she regained consciousness, fussing over her with tea and homemade biscuits. Remus had also dropped by to check on her, his kind eyes filled with concern as he reminded her to take it easy. On the evening before September 1st, Molly arrived to pick Daisy up, as she would be heading to London with the Weasley. Just like last year, Daisy grabbed her packed suitcase and gave Hagrid a warm hug. Although they said goodbyes, she knew they'd see each other soon at Hogwarts. "Hi Frida, welcome to Banana Paradise." When they arrived at the burrow, Daisy felt a faint sense of unease, a lightheadedness that she couldn't quite shake. She brushed it off, attributing it to nerves about the new school year. The burrow was as chaotic and welcoming as ever, with the familiar hum of magical activity filling the air. Harry had been staying with the Weasley ever since the last time she saw him. He looked pretty happy. Molly conjured up scrumptious dinner, ending with a mouth-watering treacle pudding that left everyone groaning in satisfaction. Fred and George rounded off the evening with a dazzling display of filibuster fireworks, filling the kitchen with red and blue stars that bounced from ceiling to wall for a good half hour. Finally, after a last mug of hot chocolate, everyone headed to bed, the excitement of the next day hanging thick in the air. September 1st. The morning was a whirlwind of chaos. Despite rising at dawn, the Weasleys seemed to have an endless list of last-minute tasks. Daisy watched from the sidelines, her trunk already packed and ready, as Molly dashed about in a flurry, searching for spare socks and quills. People collided on the stairs, half-dressed and clutching bits of toast, while Arthur nearly broke his neck tripping over a stray chicken as he carried Ginny's trunk to the car. Daisy couldn't help but wonder how 8 people, 7 large trunks, 2 owls, and a rat were going to fit in the small Ford Anglia. But Arthur had secretly expanded the car with magic. The luggage fit easily, though he shot Daisy a conspirational wink and whispered, "Not a word to Molly." When they were all finally crammed into the car, Molly glanced into the back seat, where Daisy, Harry, Ron, Fred, George, and Percy sat comfortably side by side, and remarked, "Muggles do no more than we give them credit for, don't they?" Molly and Ginny squeezed into the front seat, which has been stretched to resemble a park bench. I mean, you'd never know it was this roomy from the outside, would you? Daisy couldn't believe Molly didn't notice Arthur's expansion magic. Arthur started the engine, and they trundled out of the yard. Daisy felt a thrill of excitement, her earlier unease momentarily forgotten. But their journey was far from smooth. George had forgotten his box of filibuster fireworks, forcing them to turn back. 5 minutes later, they skidded to a halt again so Fred could fetch his broomstick. Just as they reached the highway, Ginny shrieked that she'd left her diary. By the time she clambered back into the car, they were running very late, and tempers were frayed. Daisy's dizziness returned, and she felt a pang of frustration. She had been ready since yesterday. The back and forth was exhausting, and she didn't want to be late. Arthur glanced at his watch and then Molly. "Molly, dear." "No, Arthur?" "No one would see. This little button here is an invisibility booster I installed. Would be up in the air above the clouds and there in 10 minutes. No one would be any the wiser." "I said no, Arthur. Not in broad daylight." Daisy didn't forget anything. What a well-prepared and organized girl. And I thought this might be a self-insert. Well, see, the thing is, it's because she already packed it before, you know? She gotta pack things from her house, her cottage, and then Molly came to get her that night, so she didn't really have to pack anything else, so she was ready. She had everything packed. But no, Daisy is not a self-insert for me. At least I didn't intended it to. Some of the parts I wrote was my, obviously, some way, shape, or form, my opinion on the series. But I don't intend her to be a self-insert. She's a bit of a wallflower and likes to pass out. Why? What? They finally reached King's Cross at 11:15. Arthur dashed across the road to fetch trolleys for their trunks, and they all hurried into the station. Percy went through the barrier first, followed by Arthur, Fred, George, and Daisy. Molly and Ginny came through right after. A scarlet steam engine waited on the platform, smoke drifting over the heads of the shattering crowd. But Harry and Ron were nowhere to be seen. "Oh dear," Molly exclaimed, glancing at the clock. "No matter, you all worry about yourself for now. We'll handle Ron and Harry." She shooed the others towards the train, giving everyone a quick hug before they hurried abroad. "Hogwarts Express departing soon," a voice called, accompanied by the train's whistle. Daisy barely made it through the door before it closed. The group collectively sighed in relief, their hearts still pounding from the rush. They exchanged glances and burst into laughter. "Come on, let's find an empty compartment," Fred said. "I don't want to stand here the whole ride." Daisy waved goodbye to the Weasleys and made her way through the train, searching for her friends. She hadn't seen Pansy, Daphne, and Tracy all summer, though they'd exchanged letters. Finally, she spotted them in the compartment and flung the door open. "Guys!" she shouted. "Daisy!" they yelled back in unison, their faces lighting up with excitement. "Oh, how are you? We thought you'd missed the train," Tracy said. "Almost," Daisy replied, collapsing into a seat. "I came with the Weasleys, same as last year, but this morning was a disaster. They kept forgetting things and turning back." "Ugh, of course it's the Weasleys," Pansy said, rolling her eyes. Daisy shoved her trunk onto the rack and settled in. "So what's new with you guys?" As they caught up, Daisy glanced out the window and saw something flying alongside the train. She pressed her face to the glass and gasped. It was Arthur's car! And inside, she could just make out the figures of Ron and Harry. "Oh my god," she muttered, face palming. "What is it?" Daphne asked. Daisy pointed out the window. "Oh, that can't end well," Tracy said. "Gryffindors," Pansy scoffed. The train slowed and came to a halt with a squeal. "We're here," Daphne said as Tracy bounced up from her seat. "Sit back down, Tracy. Let the first year go first. I don't want to fight the crowd." Daisy chuckled, remembering her own first year. Once the platform had cleared a bit, they grabbed their trunks and climbed into one of the horseless carriages waiting outside. The door shut with a snap, and the carriage lurched forward, joining the procession rumbling up the track toward Hogwarts Castle. Through the gates flanked by winged boars and up the sweeping drive, the carriages swayed dangerously in the growing gale. As they came to a halt before the great oak doors, Daisy and her friends dashed up the stone steps into the torch-lit entrance hall. They left their luggage and hurried into the great hall, where the start of Term Fest was in full swing. The hall looked magnificent as always, with golden plates and goblets gleaming under hundreds of floating candles. The 4 house tables were packed with chattering students, and the staff sat at the high table facing their pupils. Daisy and her friends joined the Slytherin table, their stomach growling in anticipation. "I hope there aren't too many first years to sort. I'm starving," Daisy sighed. Her friends laughed. "You're always thinking about food," Pansy teased. "That's not true," Daisy protested, though her eyes were already imagining what feast will be laid out for them. As the sorting began, Daisy's gaze wandered to the high table. She noticed 2 empty seats, one presumably for Professor McGonagall, who was with the first years, and another for Hagrid, who was likely at the lake. Her eyes landed on Gilderoy Lockhart, resplendent in aquamarine robes, and she frowned. Then she noticed Snape leaving the hall, his expression dark. "Where's he off to?" Tracy wondered. Before Daisy could answer, the doors opened and silence fell as Professor McGonagall let the first years in. The sorting began, and Daisy tuned out until Ginny's name was called. The hat barely touched her head before it shouted, "Gryffindor!" Ginny's eyes met Daisy's, and Daisy gave her a reassuring smile. After the sorting and Dumbledore's speech, the feast began. Daisy dug in with gusto, her earlier unease forgotten. Midway through the meal, Snape returned, looking furious, and left again with McGonagall and Dumbledore, who seemed unusually flustered. Potter and Weasley aren't here, are they? Daphne pointed out. They're in trouble, Pansy said with a smirk. What they do? Millicent Bulstrode asked. They flew a car to school, Daisy sighed, shaking her head. Ha! Potter and Weasley coming to school in a flying car. They're definitely getting expelled, Draco crowed, his voice carrying across the table. The Slytherins erupted into laughter, and the news spread like wildfire through the hall. Daisy couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for Harry and Ron, even as she rolled her eyes at their recklessness. It was going to be an interesting year. I'm gonna go pee real quick. I'll be right back. It's very stretched out, BRB. Very stretched out. Arrow. I mate. Your banana's back. No VRV screen sad. Yeah, I think I moved the picture, so like I need to set it up again because I need to the file directory change. I don't remember which folder I put it in though, so that'll be fun. Chapter 16, Cornish Pixies. September 2nd. After a restful night in the Slytherin dormitory, Daisy and her friends made their way to the Great Hall for breakfast. The enchanted ceiling mirrored the dull, cloudy gray of the sky outside, casting a muted light over the room. The 4 long house tables were laden with steaming tureens of porridge, plates of kippers, mountain of toast, and dishes of eggs and bacon. The aroma of breakfast filled the air, mingling with the chatter of the students. Just then, 100 or so owls swooped into the great hall, delivering letters and packages. Daisy watched as a large barn owl dropped a parcel in front of a Ravenclaw student, who eagerly tore it open. The morning post was always a lively affair, but today it was about to get much louder. The dormitory? That's a different one, pet. Dom? Damn. A deafening roar suddenly filled the hall, shaking dust from the ceiling and making the plates and spoon rattle. Stealing the car! I wouldn't have been surprised if they'd explode you. You wait till I get a hold of you. Daisy recognized Molly Weasley's voice, amplified 100 times by the magical howler. The entire hall fell silent as the scarlet envelope hovered in front of Ron, who had sunk so low in his chair that only his crimson forehead was visible. I don't suppose you stopped to think what your father and I went through when we saw it was gone? Harry, sitting beside Ron, stared resolutely at his plate, his ears turning red. The howler continued its tirade, berating Ron for his recklessness and warning him to behave, when it finally burst into flames and curled into ashes. A ringing silence fell over the hall. Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle were the first to break the silence, their snickers quickly turning into full-blown laughter. Soon, most of the Slytherin table and even a few Gryffindors joined in, their laughter echoing off the stone walls. I feel so bad for them, Daisy said, wincing. Imagine getting a howler like that in front of everyone. It's funny watching others get them though, Pansy said with a smirk. Laugh while you can. Oh, thank you, Bachelor, for the follow on Twitch. Kissing ma. You eat slushy? That's great. I'm glad you had slushy. As the babble of conversation resumed, Professor Snape appeared gliding along the Slytherin table and handing out class schedules. Daisy glanced at hers and groaned. Defense against the dark arts with Lockhart was the first thing after charms today. She piled her plate with toast and eggs. I do not want to take Lockhart's class today, she groaned, moving her food around. What's the matter? I think he's dreamy and talented, Tracy exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. What? Ew, you're into that? Daisy replied, wrinkling her nose. The girls burst into laughter, their voices carrying over the din of the hall. The Slytherins made their way to the Charms classroom, where they were joined by the Ravenclaws. Classes with Ravenclaws were always welcome for Daisy. Thank you for Stretch Redeem! The tension between houses weren't so bad. Professor Flitwick, perched on a stack of books, greeted them with a cheerful smile. Today, we'll be learning Arresto Momentum, a spell used to slow the descent of falling objects. Very useful in a variety of situations. Daisy paid close attention as Flitwick demonstrated the wand movement and incantation. The class practiced on feathers, which floated gently to the ground when the spell was casted correctly. Daisy managed to get it on her third try, earning a nod of approval from Flitwick. "Well done, Miss Evans," he chirped. 10 points to Slytherin. After chimes, the Slytherin filed into Lockhart's classroom. Daisy made her friends took a seat near the back, hoping to avoid his attention. Much to Tracy's disagreement, Lockhart stood at the front of the room, his turquoise robes shimmering under the light. He cleared his throat loudly as the class fell silent. "Me," he said, holding up a copy of Travels with Trolls and pointing at his winking portrait on the cover. "Gilderoy Lockhart, Order of Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League, and 5-time winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award. Though I don't talk about that. I didn't get rid of the Banshee by smiling at her." He definitely rehearsed that, Daisy thought. He waited for laughter, but only a few weak smiles greeted his joke. Undeterred, he continued, I see you all have bought a complete set of my books. Well done. Today, we'll start with a little quiz. Nothing to worry about, just to check how well you've read them." Daisy groaned inwardly as Lockhart handed out the test papers. The questions were absurd. 1. What is Gilderoy Lockhart's favorite color? 2. What is Gilderoy Lockhart's secret ambition? 3. What, in your opinion, is Gilderoy Lockhart's greatest achievement to date? The quiz went on for 3 sides of paper, culminating in 54th. When is Gilderoy Lockhart's birthday, and what would his ideal gift be? Daisy sighed. She had read his books over the summer, though she found them insufferable. To her dismay, she realized she could answer most of the questions. Half an hour later, Lockhart collected the papers and rifled through them. Hardly any of you remember that my favorite color is lilac. I say so in Year with the Yeti. And a few of you need to read Wanderings with the Werewolves more carefully. I clearly state in chapter 12 that my ideal birthday gift would be a harmony between all magic and non-magic peoples. Though I wouldn't say no to a large bottle of Ogden's Old Fire whiskey. He winked roguishly, and Daisy felt a wave of nausea. But Miss Daisy Evans knew my secret ambition is to rid the world of all of evil and market my own range of hair care products. Good girl. In fact, he flipped her paper over. Almost full marks. Where is Miss Daisy Evans? Daisy stayed silent, but Pansy pointed her out. Damn it. She stared daggered to Pansy, who is clearly enjoying herself. Excellent, Lockhart beamed. Take 10 points for Slytherin. And now, to business. He lifted a large covered cage onto his desk. Be warned, it is my job to arm you against the foulest creatures known to wizard kind. You may face your worst fears in this room, but no harm can befall you whilst I am here. All I ask is that you remain calm. With a dramatic flourish, Lockhart whipped off the cover, revealing a single Cornish pixie. The class erupted in laughter. Cornish pixie? Draco sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. Lockhart's face turned red. Now, just wait till they're out of the cage. Tricky little creatures they are. He fumbled with the latch, and the pixie shot out, immediately yanking out on his hair and ears. The class was in stitches, wheezing with laughter. I can't breathe, Daisy gasped, clutching her side. Me too, Pansy managed between laughs. Lockhart, now thoroughly flustered, shouted, "Class dismissed! I hope you've learned how tricky these pesky little creatures are." As the students tumbled out of the room, still laughing, Daisy lingered near the door. She heard Lockhart muttering to himself, "Should have put a whole pack in there. They'd see how frightening these pixies can be. Then they'd be begging me to put them back in the cage." Daisy glanced back to see him still struggling with the single pixie. Shaking her head, she hurried to catch up with her friends. "Told you so," Daisy hummed to Tracy, mocking her crush on Lockhart. "Oh, shut up," she groaned. After lunch, Daisy, Pansy, Daphne, and Tracy were walking through the courtyard when they heard Draco's voice echoing across the stone walls. "Cornish pixie, what's that?" Well, they're like, at least in the movies, Harry Potter movie, they're like a little pixies, blue pixies. They're mean, but like not dangerous. "Everyone line up," he shouted. "Harry Potter's giving out signed photos." Daisy turned to see Harry, his face red with anger, clenching his fist. "No, I'm not. Shut up, Malfoy." "Eat slugs, Malfoy," Ron snapped. Draco sneered. "Be careful, Weasley. You don't want to start any trouble or your mommy will have to come and take you away from school." He mimicked Molly's chilled voice. "If you put another toe out of line." A group of Slytherin fifth years nearby laughed loudly. "Weasley would like a signed photo of Potter," Draco added. "It'd be worth more than his family's whole house." Ron whipped out his spell-taped wand, but Hermione shut her book with a snap and whispered, "Look out!" "What's all this? What's all this?" A Lockhart voice rang out as he strode toward them, his turquoise robe billowing dramatically. "Who's giving out signed photos?" "Oh God, there he is again," Daisy groaned. "Let's go, guys." Pansy snickered, and the girls quickly walked away, leaving the chaos behind them. Cornish hen is a breed of chicken that's popular. No idea what that's got to do with pixie. you know, it's a breed of pixie, so it's just the same thing. Thank you, Sweeton, for hydrate. Chapter 17. Midnight. Daisy had fallen back into the rhythm of classes and studying at Hogwarts with relative ease. Her blackouts, which had plagued her so frequently the previous year, had become rare occurrences. Still, she occasionally felt dizzy or nauseous, a lingering reminder of her sensitivity to dark magic. She had learned to push through these moments, grateful that they were no longer as debilitating as they once were. But tonight was different. As she was reviewing her lessons in the empty common room, she felt her vision darken at the edges. She paused, leaning down against the cold table for support, but the darkness crept in faster than she could fight it. The weight of her body gave away, and she felt herself descending into unconsciousness. This was bound to happen at some point, she thought faintly, her mind drifting as the world around her faded. She wasn't overly upset. She had known the blackouts wouldn't disappear entirely. She was just relieved they weren't as frequent anymore. When she came to, it was to the sound of a voice cutting through the fog in her mind. "Miss Evans?" The voice was low and measured, but there was an edge to it that made her stir. She blinked, her vision swimming as she tried to focus. A hand rested firmly on her shoulder, steadying her as she stumbled. "Miss Evans?" the voice repeated, sharper this time. Daisy turned her head. Her eyes finally landed on the tall, imposing figure of Professor Snape. His black robes seemed to blend into the shadows of the dungeon corridor, and his dark eyes bore into hers with an intensity that made her stomach twist. "Oh, Professor Snape!" she said, her voice shaky with surprise. She glanced around, trying to orient herself. The damp stone walls and flickering torches told her she was in the dungeons, not far from the Slytherin common room. "And what, pray tell, were you doing out at this hour, Miss Evans?" "Hi there, welcome to Banana Paradise," Snape asked, his tone as cold as the dungeon air. He raised an eyebrow, his gaze piercing as though he could see straight through her excuses. I don't know, sir," Daisy admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I lost consciousness." Snape's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed slightly. He murmured, the sound low and thoughtful. For a long moment, he said nothing, his gaze never wavering from hers. Daisy felt as though he were dissecting her very thoughts, searching for something she couldn't quite name. Finally, he spoke again. "Regardless of your condition, you are out past curfew, and in doing so, have broken the rules. Detention in my office after class today, Miss Evans. Return to your dormitory at once." "Yes, sir," Daisy muttered, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. She watched as Snape turned on his heel and swept down the corridor, his robes billowing behind him. Once he was out of sight, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she had been holding and hurried toward the common room. As she walked, the silence of the dungeon pressed in around her, broken only by the faint echo of her footsteps. But then another sound reached her ears, a voice, cold and dripping with malice, that sent a shiver down her spine. "Come to me. Let me rip you. Let me tear you. Let me kill you." The words seemed to slither through the air, wrapping around her like a vise. Daisy froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The voice was unlike anything she had ever heard, hollow, inhuman, and filled with a hunger that made her blood run cold. Red flag, let's date that one. You're so right, you're so right. She didn't wait to hear more. Turning on her heel, she practically ran the rest of the way to the Slytherin common room, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. A passage revealed on the bare stretch of stone wall as she hissed the password, and she stumbled inside, her legs trembling. The common room was still empty, the fire in the hearth reduced to glowing embers. Daisy sank into the nearest armchair, her mind racing. What had that voice been? Where did it come from, and who is it killing? She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to shake off the chill that had settled deep into her bones. She felt truly afraid. The next day rolled around as quickly as Nimbus 2000, well, now a Nimbus 2001, could fly. Daisy groaned as she opened her eyes, the dim light of the Slytherin common room filtering through the greenish glow of the lake above. She blinked, disoriented, and realized she had fallen asleep on one of the plush armchairs by the fireplace. The embers had long since died out, leaving the room chilly and quiet. "Merlin's beard," she muttered, rubbing her eyes. She glanced at the clock on the wall and bolted upright. It was nearly breakfast time. Hurriedly, she grabbed her books and dashed back to the dormitory, hoping her friends hadn't noticed her absence. "Daisy, there you are! Where have you been?" Tracy shouted as soon as Daisy walked in. Her voice was loud enough to wake the portraits on the walls. "Sorry, I fell asleep in the common room last night," Daisy admitted, wincing as she rummaged through her trunk for a clean set of robes. "Hurry up, sleepyhead, or there won't be any breakfast left for you," Pansy teased, already dressed and ready to go. She leaned against the door frame, her arms crossed and a smirk playing on her lips. "Yes, yes," Daisy replied, rolling her eyes as she hurriedly freshened up and changed her clothes. The three girls made their way to the great hall where the scent of freshly baked bread and sizzling bacon greeted them. The day's classes flew by in a blur of lectures, note-taking, and the occasional whispered joke between Daisy and her friends. But as the last bell rang, Daisy knew her day wasn't over yet. She said goodbye to her friends, letting them know she had detention to attend. "Detention with Snape? Good luck," Daphne said, her tone sympathetic. "Hope you enjoy cave baths," Pansy added sarcastically, earning a laugh from Tracy. "Oh, you fell asleep, Decker? Makes sense. Story time." Daisy rolled her eyes and chuckled. "Thanks, guys." She made her way through the dungeons, the familiar chill of the stone corridors settling over her like a second skin. This almost sounds like a smut when I hear detention with Professor Snape. My fanfic isn't a smut, guys. My fanfic is clean. She walked into the empty potions classroom, the cauldrons and ingredients neatly arranged on the shelves. "Thank you, Nana, for hydrate redeem." The door to Snape's office was closed, and Daisy knocked lightly. "Professor," she called. "Come in." "Come in," came the curt reply. Daisy pushed the door open and stepped inside. Snape's office was as dark and cluttered as ever, with shelves lined with jars of strange ingredients and stacks of parchment covering his desk. The faint scent of herbs and potion lingered in the air. "Miss Evans, right on time," Snape said, glancing at the clock before turning his piercing gaze back to her. "You will be cleaning the classroom today. You may start now." Yes, sir, Daisy nodded, quickly retreating to the classroom. She grabbed a broom and set to work, sweeping the floor and wiping down the tables. For the more stubborn stains, particularly the crusted remnants of potions around the cauldrons, she used Scourgify, the spell leaving the surfaces gleaming. Soothing bunny tones, now we know what kind of stuff you like. What? Yeah, I keep expecting chiseled abs. Knowing this is on Wattpad has ruined me. It's not as much. Get your minds out of the gutter. I will be glad to read this. I enjoy reading. Oh, good. The link is in description, by the way, in case you guys wanna go read it yourself later too. It's not done yet, so it's new chapters will keep being released. Scrub Daddy is. Oh my God, Scrub Daddy. Did you see the Duolingo one? They were so cute. Yeah, only 28 parts, right? Yeah, it's not finished though, so like there'll be more. Though I got lazy at writing, so that the new chapter probably won't come out soon. Need to get into the writing, back into the groove of writing again. It just takes so much effort, you know. Like I have to like read the books because I want to get it accurate. I have to read the books first, and then I have to like start writing, and then I need to like research of some parts if I wanted to add things in to make sure it's lore accurate. But I'm trying. I like my plan is to like write until like you know, the last book's timeline, or you know, you keep seeing things happening from Daisy's POV, and we're only at the second book right now. I'm starting on the third book, so it'll be a long fanfic, yeah. It didn't take that long to finish, thanks to the efficiency of magic. Daisy returned to Snape's office, knocking lightly on the open door to announce her presence. Professor, I'm done, sir. Very well, sit down, Snape said, not looking up from the essay he was grading. Daisy took the chair across from him, her hands folded in her lap. Yes, sir? She asked, her tone polite but curious. How's your conditions, Miss Evans? Snape asked, his quill scratching across the parchment as he corrected a student's work. It's better now, sir, Daisy replied, surprised by the question. She hadn't expected Snape to take an interest in her well-being. I recall telling you not to make a habit of wandering the castle alone, he said sternly, finally setting down his quill and fixing her with his dark gaze. Yes, sir, Daisy said, her gaze shifting downward. However, I can hardly help myself when I lose consciousness, sir, she added, trying to defend herself. I am aware, Snape replied, his voice clipped. How long has this condition been going, Miss Evans? Daisy hesitated, then answered, as far back as I can remember, sir, though most episodes are minor and infrequent. Not wanting to make a big deal out of it, she blurted, but you needn't worry, sir. Professor Dumbledore checked on me personally during the summer. Bun, the second fanfic is coming soon. Working title Junji Ito Presents Banana Paradise Requiems. Oh my god, second fanfic coming soon. Yeah, but who is it? Chip and Decker. Oh yeah. What chip do we feature? Snape arched an eyebrow, his expression unreadable. And what did he say about it? Daisy blinked, caught off guard. Well, sir, he said I have a strong affinity for dark magic. She admitted, her voice quieter towards the end. Snape's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed slightly. He hummed, leaning back in his chair. From now on, I want you to report to me anytime your condition recurs. By owl if you must, even the minor ones. Pay a close attention to any patterns you might notice. Daisy nodded, her heart pounding. Yes, sir. Very well, you may leave now. Keep up your work, Miss Evans, Snape said, his voice softer than before, though no less commanding. Thank you, sir, Daisy said, standing and heading for the door. Snape's softer side had caught her by surprise, but she had always believed he was capable of it. For now, though, she is just glad to be done with detention. Whee! Chapter 18. Enemies of the Air. October. October had arrived at Hogwarts, bringing with it a relentless downpour that seemed to drench the castle and its grounds without end. The rainy weather had kept Madame Pomfrey exceptionally busy in the hospital wing, as both staff and students succumbed to the seasonal colds that swept through the halls. The pepper-up potion, a stable remedy for such ailments, worked wonders, though it had the peculiar side effect of causing the drinker to steam from their ears for several hours afterward, much to the amusement of onlookers. You know, even if I have a cold, I probably wouldn't eat. I probably wouldn't chuck that potion. Because steam coming out from your ears for several hours sounds horrible. I'll take my stuffy nose, thank you very much. Daisy had just finished her morning classes and was about to head to the courtyard for a breath of fresh air. As she approached, she felt a sudden wave of dizziness and a creeping sense of unease. She tried to brush it off as a symptom of the cold weather, but deep down, she knew it was something more. Then, she spotted a familiar figure in the corridor. Ginny Weasley was walking briskly, her vivid red hair partially obscured by the clouds of steam billowing from her ears. The effect was almost comical, given the impression that her entire head was on fire. "Ginny!" Daisy called out, her voice echoing slightly in the stone corridor. The younger girl turned at the sound of her name, her face lighting up despite the steam still pouring from her ears. She began, only to pause as another puff of smoke escaped. "Daisy!" she exclaimed, rushing over. Daisy noticed that Ginny was clutching a small leather-bound journal tightly to her chest, her fingers gripping it as though it were something precious. So have these people ever heard of Advil? They wouldn't take invading because they hate muggles, you know? Muggles, they're so behind, they don't know what they're doing. Muggles are stupid. so they probably just take their own wizarding potions. "Did you catch a cold?" Daisy asked, eyeing the telltale sign of the pepper-up potion. "No, Percy made me take it," Ginny replied, her tone tinged with frustration as another plume of steam waved upwards. "He was convinced I had definitely caught the cold." Daisy studied Ginny closely. The younger girl looked paler than usual, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. "You do look a little ghostly," Daisy remarked, her concern growing. "Are you sure you're okay?" This is why Samuel called me his equal. Damn. Yeah, Jenny said quickly, though her smile was faint and didn't quite reach her eyes. I just haven't been sleeping well, that's all. Daisy wasn't entirely convinced, but she didn't press further. Instead, she reached out and gently patted Ginny on the head. Her touch warm and reassuring. Take care of yourself, alright? And if you need anything, you know where to find me. Thanks, Daisy, Ginny said, her smile softening slightly. She gave Daisy a small nod before turning to continue down the corridor, the journal still clutched tightly in her hands. Daisy watched her go, the sense of unease lingering like a shadow. But with no clear answers, Daisy shook her head and continued on her way, the sound of the rain tapping against the castle windows, following her like a quiet, persistent whisper. She breathed the fresh air and felt her tension slipping away. Daisy recalled her detention with Snape. It had certainly been an interesting night. As the memory lingered, she found herself wondering if she should mention her earlier dizziness. After all, he had said to report everything, even the minor stuff. But did dizziness even count? He had been talking about blackouts, not this. She thought about it, and as the sound of the rain gently hummed around her, lulling her into a soothing rhythm, the rain faded into the background, and before she knew it, she was standing in front of the cold, familiar walls of the dungeons, the potion classroom looming before her. Might as well, she took a deep breath and stepped inside. Despite seeing a rare, softer side of Snape earlier, the idea of upsetting the strict potion master still sent a chill down her spine. The classroom was almost always spotless, a testament to Snape's meticulous nature and the frequent detentions he handed out. Daisy assumed they had to clean the classroom just as she did. Students tend to make quite a mess during lessons, but the room never seemed to reflect it. Professor, Daisy called out, spotting him rearranging the ingredients on the far side of the room. He turned, his gaze sharp, his voice as cold and emotionless as ever. To what do I owe this pleasure, Miss Evans? You told me to report if my condition acts up, sir, Daisy said, trying to keep her voice steady. Ah, Snape said, setting the ingredients down and walking toward her. I'm assuming it has then. Tell me. It's minor, sir, just some dizziness and a feeling of unease, she explained, but I thought I should mention it. Snape arched an eyebrow. And the circumstances? I was heading to the courtyard, but nothing out of the ordinary. I ran into Ginny Weasley on the way, but it was brief. The dizziness passed quickly. Very well, Snape replied, his expression unreadable. We'll see what happens next time. You did well to report it. You may go. Daisy let out a quiet sigh of relief. She hadn't upset him. Thank you, Professor. Have a good day. She smiled and quickly left the room. October 31st. Halloween had arrived at Hogwarts, and this year it fell on a Saturday. A rare treat that had the entire school buzzing with excitement. After the chaos of last year's troll incident, students were eager to enjoy the festivities without the interruption. The Great Hall had been transformed into a spectacle of eerie enchantment. Live bats fluttered overhead, their wings casting flickering shadows on the walls, while Hagrid's enormous pumpkins carved into lanterns large enough to seat 3 men, glowed with a warm, inviting light. Rumors swirled that Dumbledore had even booked a trove of dancing skeletons for this evening's entertainment, adding to the anticipation. Daisy, like everyone else, was thrilled. She had spent the morning in the library, but as the sun hovered above her head, she decided to put her books away. After all, Halloween was a time for celebration, not studying. She made her way down to Hagrid's hut, the crypt's autumn air nipping at her cheeks as she walked. As she approached, she spotted Hagrid standing in his pumpkin patch, his massive frame silhouetted against the field. He looked unusually somber, his shoulders slumped as he gazed the remnants of his prized pumpkins. "Hagrid, what's wrong?" Daisy asked, her voice tinged with concern. Hagrid sniffled, wiping his face with a handkerchief the size of a tablecloth. "I'm just a wee bit sad," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "What's gotten you down?" Daisy asked, stepping closer. "Your pumpkins are amazing. They're the biggest I've ever seen. Everyone's talking about them." I know I did a good job with them," Hagrid said, his voice trembling. "But now they're all carved up and sitting in the Great Hall. I miss them, you know. They're like my babies." Daisy's heart ached for him. She reached up as high as she could to pat his arm. "Oh, Hagrid, you're such a good farmer. You can always grow new ones next year. They'll be just as wonderful." Hagrid nodded, though his eyes remained misty. "You're right, Daisy. Thanks for saying that." By evening, the Great Hall was alive with laughter and chatter. The golden plates and goblets gleamed under the light of floating jack-o'-lanterns. The aroma of roasted meats, spiced pumpkin pasties, and treacle tarts filled the air. The live bats swooped and dived, delighting the first years, while the promised trove of dancing skeletons performed a lively jig on the raised platform at the front of the hall. Daisy sat with her Slytherin friends, savoring the feast, but as she glanced around the hall, she noticed some familiar faces were missing. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Ginny. A flicker of unease stirred in her chest. "I hope they're not up to some idiotic Gryffindor stunt like last year," she thought, recalling the chaos of the troll incident. She shook her head, trying to push the worry aside, and turned her attention back to her friends. Daisy is celebrating and not studying. She has 0 Sigma Alpha Male Wolf aura. It's Halloween after all. Who studies on Halloween, you know? Midway through the feast, Daisy spotted Ginny entering the Great Hall and sitting at the Gryffindor table. She raised an eyebrow, surprised. She had assumed Ginny was with the trio. Still, she felt a wave of relief knowing the younger girl was safe. The evening passed without incident, much to everyone's delight. The absence of Professor Quirrell bursting in with the news of a troll was a welcome change, and the atmosphere remained festive and light-hearted. As the feast came to an end, the students began funneling out of the Great Hall, their laughter and chatter echoing through the corridors. Daisy was about to follow her friends when a chilling voice stopped her in her tracks. The voice slithered through the walls, cold and menacing. Daisy froze, her blood turning to ice. She looked around frantically, but no one else seemed to hear it. "Are you going mental, Evans?" Draco sneered, his voice dripping with disdain as he and his cronies approached her. Before Daisy could respond, the voice rang out again, louder and more urgent. "I smell blood! I smell blood!" Without thinking, Daisy bolted, pushing through the crowd and following the voice. Draco and his crony, intrigued by her sudden urgency, trailed behind her, their laughter fading as they sensed something was amiss. The chatter and bustle of the crowd died suddenly as Daisy reached the second floor. She pushed her way to the front, her heart pounding, and gasped at the sight before her. Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, hung stiff and lifeless from a torch bracket. Her eyes were wide and unseeing, her body frozen in a grotesque pose. Below her, foot-high word shimmered on the wall, written in what appeared to be blood. "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware." A stunned silence fell over the crowd. Then Draco's voice cut through quiet, cold, and mocking. "Enemies of the air, beware. You'll be next, mudbloods." Hold up. let me edit this part. Where is it? No. No. There we go. There we go. You didn't see anything. Okay. He stood at the front of the crowd, his pale face flushed with excitement, his eyes gleaming with malice as he grinned at the sight of the petrified cat. Before anyone could react, Filch came shouldering through the crowd, his face contorted with rage and horror. My cat! What's happened to Miss Norris?" he shrieked, his eyes landing on Harry. "You!" he screeched, pointing a trembling finger. "You've murdered my cat! I'll kill you! Daisy's heart sank for Filch. She had never liked him, but she occasionally found him very pitiful. "Argus?" Dumbledore's voice rang out, calm but commanding. The headmaster had arrived, followed by a group of teachers. He swiftly detached Mrs. Norris from the torch bracket and returned to Filch. "Come with me, Argus. You too, Mr. Potter, Mr. Weasley, Miss Granger." Lockhart stepped forward eagerly, his turquoise robe swishing dramatically. My office is nearest, Headmaster, just upstairs. Please feel free." "Thank you, Gilderoy," Dumbledore said, his tone polite but dismissive. The crowd parted silently as the teachers and students followed Dumbledore down the corridor, leaving the rest of the students to murmur in shock and fear. Daisy stood frozen, her mind racing as she processed what had just happened. The Chamber of Secrets, the air, the petrified cat. It was all too much to take in. She glanced at Draco, who was still smirking, and felt a surge of anger. But beneath the anger was a deep, gnawing fear. "How'd you know it, Evans?" Draco's voice cut through the haze of Daisy's racing thoughts. "What?" Daisy blinked, still startled, her mind trying to catch up. "You knew something. You bolted straight over here." Draco crossed his arms, his eyes narrowing slightly. They were voices, Daisy said quietly, the words feeling like they didn't even belong to her. It was the only explanation she could offer, but even she wasn't sure of it. And with that, she didn't say another word to Draco. Her heart pounded in her chest as she returned and stumbled her way back to the Slytherin common room, shocked, confused, and above all, scared. Ah. Alright guys, I think I'm gonna pause right here at the end of chapter 18, going on chapter 19. We read, I think we also read like 9 chapters today. So considering we stopped at like chapter 9 last time, right? Around that. 8 or 9 chapters, I can't math. But thank you everyone for hanging out with me this afternoon. Yes, start of chapter 19 noted. It was fun reading my fanfic to you guys as always. It's a nice, cozy story time kind of stream day. And then tomorrow we have Stardew Valley? I think so. I think tomorrow's Stardew Valley, right? Thursday? Yes, it is. Tomorrow is Stardew Valley with members at 7 p.m. Be prepared. We are going to be more efficient. Again. And then there is, yeah. Baldur's Gate on Friday, yep. Okay, so tomorrow I'll see you guys for Stardew Valley. Slave Labor Simulator. What do you mean, Slave Labor Simulator? What? Nah. But thank you so much everyone for hanging around, listening to my fanfic. You could also go read it yourself if you want to find out what happened. And don't have to wait for me to make another fanfic reading stream. Don't hurt me, but I'll cut the trees. You better, holding my knife. Have a good evening, Bun. You too. Everyone have a great evening. Kissy, mwah. Love y'all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Alright, look at my ending screen. Bunana,